All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Two Savage for Democrats podcast, episode 162. We are going to be debating communism versus capitalism today. Brian, go ahead and do the intro.
What's up, guys? So we're going to do a debate for you now. This is a really highly anticipated debate. I've been hyping it up because it's a lot of fun. It's been fun the last few times we've had Pat on, and I think it'll be a lot of fun again. So we'll go ahead and we'll introduce everybody in just a second. I think Dylan's doing his little plug, so more people. We actually have a lot of people watching right now. We have like 20 people just waiting to watch this, almost like they're waiting for bread in a bread line. But anyways,
except they actually get this. They don't get
they actually get this. Yeah. No, so we're about ready to do that right after Dylan posts. Then everyone will kind of introduce themselves, and we'll get into a little crossfire type deal going on. So do you guys want to just kind of say your name, your Instagram, and then we'll kind of do our thing, and then we'll get into the actual debate.
All right.
You want to go first, Pat? Pat?
He's muted.
You have to unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Holden Patrick Valli, and my Instagram username is IG machine broke, and there's dots in between, but that's temporary. I'm going to change that soon.
Can you speak into the mic a little bit more, please?
Did anyone hear what I just said?
We can hear you. It's just very quiet.
Okay, I'll speak louder.
Thank you.
Wait, do you want me to say that again?
Just continue.
Just keep going.
Well, no. What else is there for me to say?
Okay, next guy then.
All right. My name is Danny. My Instagram is young.lenin. Play the words, so to speak. I'm a Marxist-Leninist Maoist. And generally that's about it. That's what I'm going to have to go over now.
Yeah, and credit to him. I thought I was being savage with my fucking Trump shit in the back and like my economics book. He brought the inbred meme. Total, I'm taking an L. He won this one, so that's good. But yeah, that was good. So we can start off the debate here. What should we start off with? I know Brian.
Well, how about we start right into it?
I forgot to
saying
add that I'm a Marxist-Leninist. Important.
Why don't we get right into, because like one thing that I kind of want to pick your guys' brain on is your issues with like the United States and the economic system we have now. Obviously, it's been incredibly successful. So I'm curious to see what you would change.
Well, it's a world economic system, hardly limited to America.
No, I'm asking the United States system. What would you like to change about the United States
we don't
system?
see capitalism as limited to America. We see it as a global system.
Shit.
Maybe minus Cuba and North Korea.
Well,
yeah, but would you argue that there are certain aspects of capitalism that are unique to the United States?
Well, yeah, but I mean, just because some.
So Brian was asking like the system that's in the United States. So if you'd agree that there are aspects that are different in the United States, then just answer his question.
Well, yes, particularly saying how all four of us are from the United States, it's somewhat relevant, and you haven't really touched on it the last few times, and I kind of want to press you on it because I want to know what you think. Obviously, all four of us live in the United States. Most of our viewers are from the United States, and it's been incredibly successful. So I'm curious, what about our economic system would you change?
Well, I think first of all, we should have to establish what exactly is wrong with the system. For example, 62% of Americans cannot afford, say, a $500 brake job for their car. 50% cannot afford a $400 emergency. 50% furthermore have no savings at all, and
50% of what?
50% of Americans. Just
okay.
70% have less than $1,000 saved, and furthermore, 50% of Americans make less than $30,000 a year, which, generally speaking, is considered just below the living wage.
No,
around
it's
50.
not.
Let me ask you this,
That's
though.
not even close. That's about 4 times higher.
Can you tell me the number of Americans
Right.
that have access to a grocery store that's stocked with food?
Quite a lot.
Yeah,
we should also go over the fact that, say,
one of the
4/10.
things
It's 95%.
Also,
Sure,
do you know how many Americans have high-speed internet?
A lot, but that's relevant.
95%.
Okay, but here's the thing: is that
The thing you're missing, though, and there's 2 points to it.
no.
Number one, well, hang on a second, because you have to let me finish. There's 2 things that kind of need to be established. Number one, the poor in the United States have it far better off than most people in other developed nations. Overwhelming 95% have access to internet, 98% have no need for food, 97% have a refrigerator, microwave, an oven, as well as air conditioning. 99% have access to a car that they drive. So, I mean, if you compare that to most other nations, that's pretty good. And then also you mentioned like the poor people. Another thing you cherry picked and you failed to mention is the fact that 70% of the American people will be in the top 30% of the income bracket for at least 1 year in the life. So we have a very fluid income mobility.
I mean, that's objectively not true. It's well known.
That objectively is true. It's according to the Congressional Budget Report in 2015.
No, it's not.
Chart 13, page 12.
No. I'll give you an example.
It's objective. It's the
No. Let me speak.
Because he's clearly objecting to. So the Congressional Budget Report is it's completely bipartisan. 2015, page 12, chart 3. Look it up yourself.
That doesn't mean much when both of the parties are going to support capitalism in the end.
No, it literally means it's proving my point because I'm getting
let me ask you this. If you're going to object to his point, if you're going to object to Brian's point, can you prove it wrong?
No. Yeah, can you please tell me where the Congressional Budget Report went wrong? That's all you have to do. Where
I'm
did
just
the
saying you were
bipartisan
wrong and saying
go
bipartisan makes it totally non-biased.
Well, because you can't come on and just object to a fact.
Everybody has some sort of bias, but
Danny had something to say about it, so I think he should.
Okay, wait, hold on. Let's swing both ways. It goes Republican, Democrat, left, whatever you want to imagine. All it's supposed to do is
there's no real left wing in America. The Democratic
Party that's a true Scotsman fallacy.
That's a true
Scotsman fallacy.
That's not a true Scotsman fallacy. You can't say. No, we all have heard you. You've not been muted. You can talk.
Wonderful. Now, here's the first thing.
But the truth, you can't
let Danny say something about
real leftist. But you can see that was a fallacy.
No.
You can't just arbitrarily
say something, Danny. Go ahead.
No, I would say the first thing, first of all, is that you can talk about how Americans have a higher standard of living than most other nations, but that ignores the fact that poverty is in and of itself relative. For instance, if you make enough money, even in America, for instance, if you make, say, $15 in a rural city, you're going to have a lot more than, say, it's going to cost a lot more to live in New York City on that salary. And furthermore, I would also like to add on the topic of, say, wealth inequality, we should also discuss first things first about laws of competition, on laws of competition. And the first thing that we should have to establish is, I think we can agree that capital is the driving force. Capital is the driving force of the economy. For instance, say, as a social form, it is mobile. It is the driving force of the system. Now, when it comes to competition, generally you want to have lower prices in order to, say, encourage more consumers to go to your firm, right? And so the thing about that,
not necessarily.
Is generally you do, though. No, generally.
No, quality doesn't actually matter. That's so stupid.
You're right.
That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. Do you really want a $5 hooker?
Are you saying that low costs for basic consumer goods, like, say, food or don't entice customers?
That's not the only quality. It does some effect.
It's the most important, though. It is the tool used for.
How is that objectively the most important? Quality means nothing.
Right here. Hold on.
So why are we all riding bikes instead of a car? Explain that one to me.
Efficiency, but.
Oh, so it does matter. Okay.
Right.
Thank you for conceding.
No. Here's the thing: is that generally you do want to have lower costs for goods.
That's not
like
always
goods in general. Goods in general. Like you're comparing. No. Because you're talking about two different.
No, you literally conceded.
No. You're talking about two different.
No. You literally.
No. You are talking about comparisons between two different commodities. I am talking about two commodities of the same type.
They provide the same service, which is transportation.
Right. No. But they.
Right. No.
They have different uses. No, they have.
Am I right or is it no? They're transportation.
But they also still serve
said I was right.
They also have different uses. Say, for instance, a car can have more storage than a bike. They all have different uses. But we are talking about competition.
Are you dodging my question or no?
I answer.
Do they not serve the same purpose, which is transportation? You can bike to work. You can drive to work. You can walk to work.
Right, but they also still have different uses in and of itself. A car is not the same.
They have other functions.
Right,
air conditioning in a car.
Right, and that's another utility. They also have different utilities. Then that's
not what you said. You're moving the goalposts.
No, do you not know?
You absolutely are. You can't just change it to no, they have different utilities.
Yes,
first
they
I'm
do.
wrong, then I'm right, then I'm wrong, then I'm right. Now you're talking about different utilities.
That's what I've always been talking
and
about.
And I also want to correct you on income inequality because I have my sources right here.
Danny had
We can
something to
talk
say
this
about that.
We could
I
talk
think
this
you should say
further,
that.
and I'm going to say this further, is that we're talking about competition between firms that are producing the same goods.
I-
Say a company produces a widget, and another company produces the same widget. Now, generally, if you want to attract more customers to buy your widget, you would want to have lower costs to attract them. Because generally speaking, the lower the cost, the more people are going to be able to afford them.
No. That's not necessarily. That actually isn't true. There was a study that came out by, I think it was, I forgot exactly who did it. This was recently, and I don't have it like sourced here, but I
That was
remember
that
reading it
poll.
for a
I
show.
think we found it. I don't think I put it to the
Well, that
Twitter.
makes it.
Was that the poll?
But essentially what it showed is that most times Americans are willing to pay, you're correct, less, but the quality also has to be there. So if the quality of the product is there, so like if you go out, let's say
Sure,
you want to buy a
but-
car, right?
Sure.
And you're going to buy a car for, let's say you run a limousine business, okay? You buy a limousine. You don't want your limousine to break down in the middle of the road just because it was cheaper. You want to buy a better limousine. So when it comes to things like, it really depends on what they're buying it for. Like if they're buying a broom, they're going to buy the cheaper broom. But as you get into higher price things like cars and
Yeah, I
houses
mean,
and
the
things like
issue
that,
is you're using an oversimplification fallacy.
you're correct when it comes to lower priced items in general, like household cleaning
generally
appliances and stuff.
speaking, most people aren't going to be focusing on. Most people, as established, don't have savings. Most people are making
Well,
less than
you're being
$30,000.
vague.
That really quick. I do want to touch on that. The reason that most Americans aren't saving is that is a failure, I think, of us rather than the system we have. I think less people are saving money. They're waiting till they're older to save money. I think less people are concerned about the future. And another problem is a lot of Americans say that they aren't saving as much money because of how much they have to pay in taxes and because of the government. So
Okay, we need to understand that
no,
older people are
no,
saving because they grew up in a
no,
far less
no.
No.
According to
yes,
not an
that's
argument.
objectively
No,
true. Like people are paying less.
no. According to Alternate, it says here, quote, lack of savings.
Alternate?
Young adults who
What
went
the
from a
fuck is
5%.
Alternate?
What was your source?
Alternate, which cites Pew Research, Go Savings Banks, and the two economists Emmanuel Says and Gabriel Zuckman, who they say, since the bottom half of the distribution always owns close to zero wealth on net, the bottom 90% wealth share is the same as the share of wealth owned by the top.
Hang on a
Okay,
second.
I've got an article from The
I also
Economist
wanna-
here. I've got an article
No.
from The Economist here, objectively, that says that 57% of Americans say that they don't have savings. Number one, because they feel like the government takes too much money from them in taxes and they can't afford to save. And they most of them blame the government for these issues, right? So
Also,
They
why
blame
can't we
government,
get-
but that's not objective.
I also have a question for you. I have a question for you. Would you agree inequality
Okay, that's
is a
somewhat of a
byproduct
straw man
biology?
because
Would you agree inequality is a byproduct of biology?
Well, that depends. This has been
No.
addressed. No. Because
Inequality-
no.
Does
No.
IQ
Let me
Jesus
finish.
Christ, just say
You
no once. It's fine.
Let me
Mute him a
finish.
second because I have to mute him real quick because he's wrong. So one thing you have to understand is the fundamental theory of biology, which is evolution. You don't have evolution without inequality, so you're objectively wrong in saying that.
And
So I have to
IQs,
correct you there. That's
you're
just-
never going to be able to eradicate. You're never
so
going to
from
be
an
able to eradicate the
educational
IQ.
point.
Oh, go ahead, Brian. Sorry. No, go
I
ahead.
was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say, from an educational point of view, I had to correct you there because that's biologically illiterate.
And you're never going to be able to fix the IQ problem, which is that generally speaking, and actually the majority of the time, people with higher IQs tend to be more successful, create more goods, and the people with lower IQs tend to be in the bottom ring taking things from people with higher IQs. So when you have a system...
That's putting the cart before the horse. You have to prove that this is say
Do you
intelligence.
deny evolution? Do you deny
No,
that
but
IQ?
you deny
Do you
that
deny
access.
IQ?
Not,
what
do you
about
deny that?
IQ?
Do
No,
you deny
because
that
IQ is genetics. IQ is
IQ is
IQ
do you
is
deny
over
that?
80%
is
genetics.
85% genetic, and that is objectively true. You can look it up on almost any...
No, what I've heard.
No,
more
it
so,
absolutely
most
is.
of
I'll
it
pull it up
50-50.
right now.
It's not
No,
50
it is not. It's not 50.
There's no way that it's 50% environmental. That makes no sense.
of opportunity.
It absolutely does because most people.
Explain to me how. How is it 50% environmental? Explain.
Here we
Because,
go. This is according to
instance,
geneticuliteracyproject.org. Here, this is according.
Brian, I got a question for
I
you.
just googled
This
it.
is
IQ is mostly inherited. 86%. How smart you are doesn't depend on how your parents raise you. A new study conclude. Sort
No,
for
it
intelligent
The
questions
only
IQ.
time, the only
This is
time
according to literally IQ page where you. This is literally the IQ page.
The only time
You're
you can change
objectively
a child's IQ is you can raise it a little bit when they're young and their brain is developing, but they're at a very young age, and you can't raise it by that many points. It pretty much.
You fundamentally
No,
don't
think about
understand
this.
what IQ
No,
is.
think
IQ
about
isn't
this.
knowledge.
No,
IQ is
think
how
about
quick you're
this.
able to solve
Is
problems.
that right? And this is going to be influenced by different social factors around you. For instance, if you're dealing with,
As I
say,
pointed out with my study,
no,
it's mostly
let me
genetics.
finish. Let me
It's
finish.
objective.
Okay, go
Let
ahead. Finish.
Just don't make a dumb argument.
Say people who are living in poverty are going to have to be dealing more so with the stress of living in poverty, and the stress, it's well known, doesn't just go away afterwards. Do you think that somehow stress and its effects on the brains is going to able to affect mental capabilities in some
Yes.
way?
Okay, but
two
you
counters to
can't-
that. I have two counters to that. Number one, as I mentioned earlier, and you haven't refuted, our economic class is incredibly fluid, like I mentioned before. And number two, no, IQ has no relation on stress. Like I said here, environment plays very little role. In fact, it says here, it plays little to no role. It's almost entirely genetics, and I don't see how you could. Almost every study suggests that, and even leftists like Sam Harris concede IQ.
Sam Harris, leftist?
He's not a Marxist, but he's the best you have.
Okay, wait, guys.
He's by
We need
far
to
the
do a
most
better
intelligent
job
leftist.
of letting everybody talk. I think, like, we're talking over each other a lot. And Google Hangouts cuts people out, so we need to, like, I think we should do a better job of just kind of letting other people talk. Now, make a point. Fuck, I forgot your name. What's your name?
First off, I think you should either counter my claim on IQ or you should just concede.
Here's what we should do.
And then we can
Let's
move
just,
on
like,
if that's the case.
Let's just boot right here. Make your point on IQ, and then we'll let him respond to it.
I mean, first off, like, you can just go look yourself too. Like, psychology talks about how socioeconomic factors influence these things. You can't just downplay the role of society. Generally speaking, yes, it is, for the most part, 50-50. Most studies on the subject show that. You've only shown, say, one source on this. When meanwhile, if I go, say, Psychology Today, I believe Education Today too said something similar. And generally,
Okay, so can I explain?
This
that
is
really quick?
literally the IQ. This is literally the IQ website, so I would say they're the authority of the site.
Let me explain something really quick
What's the
because this is
IQ
important
website exactly?
when it comes to IQ.
Well, there's different forms of IQ, and to take an official one requires a lot of money, and you have to take a while. And they fund money into it, like they study it. This is essentially the authority on it.
there's class.
This is important to remember when you're talking about IQ. Okay, most IQ.
Oh, and you mentioned.
Okay.
Oh, I actually have a really good study. This is from the American Psychology Association. They found that they can predict it 75% of the time.
Okay.
So your
most-
psychology source is.
Okay, let me just make the point. We used to judge IQs based on intelligence 30 years ago, 25 years ago, and we stopped doing that because there are certain groups of individuals who tend to score less, and they consider that to be racist if we continue to do IQs. So it's much harder to get an accurate IQ test today than it was back then. So, but it is.
There's also different types of IQ tests.
There's different types, but it's objectively, like, there is no arguing. It's definitely the majority of your IQ. If you want to, like, obviously different studies.
They have twin studies here. I have twin studies right here that do an
Different
excellent
studies are
job.
going to get different numbers, but I would be willing to bet that if we looked up the majority of studies right now, because I've done a lot of research into this, because this is something that's important, because I advocate for getting rid of the education system it is right now and basing it more on an IQ-based system. But I know for a fact, and I've done a ton of research on this. I don't have it right in front of me, but we can look it up if I have to. Most studies will show you that over 65% of IQ is hereditary, and the rest is environmental. And because it comes from it's genetic. It's a genetic trait that's passed down within your family. That's why you see, that's why they talk about. In fact, I just read a story today on my show. There was the University of Iowa. This student at the University of Iowa in the student newspaper he made this rant about cognitive privilege. It's a new privilege he invented, and he was ranting because he thinks it's unfair that some kids are born with better IQs that they didn't deserve. They didn't earn that IQ, and so he thinks that's unfair. So you can go look at my video on my main channel today. I did a video on that.
I also have a government one here, which is in a peer-reviewed study, which again finds it around 84%. So there's
I think
several
we should probably
studies.
go back to the debate at hand, though.
Well, first off, do you concede this point, and then we can move on? Or
I'll concede this point
Yeah.
because I didn't look into it, but I'm not going to concede wrong. I just haven't bothered to look into it because this wasn't part
Well,
of
here's
what
the
the debate
thing.
is.
IQ, we're arguing IQ has an impact on how successful you are in
And
society.
it has an impact on
Yes, and
society too.
Brian,
If you take government
and
away,
this
let's
came
let's
from
imagine that we lived in an anarchist society, completely anarchist. If we lived in a society with no government, the people with high IQs would be producing more stuff, more goods. The people with low IQ would be producing nothing because the types of
No,
no,
because
listen, it's objectively true because if you look at the types, and this is not refutable right here, what I'm about to say. People with high IQs are better at fast-paced jobs that change rapidly. They're better at handling that.
IQ
People with
test,
low,
that's what IQ test. It's how
exactly.
quickly
People
can
with
you
low
solve
IQ
a problem.
at handling redundant jobs. And as the successful people become more successful and create more things, people with higher IQs, they will create technology that will make the jobs of the low IQ people redundant. So
And
it's
one point I want to add real quick is I think a fundamental misunderstanding that people have on IQ is they think it's a test like they have in school. It's not a test you just study for, you memorize, and you go and take it. It's testing how quickly you can solve certain problems. So it's not really, it's something that's kind of difficult to study for, you know? So, am I still going? Sorry,
did you say
it's very much so genetic. If you were to argue like your GPA, I would argue that is very environmental because if you study hard, you can get a good GPA. Like that, you can put hard work in and do pretty well. Obviously, if you're intelligent and you have a high IQ, you're at a huge advantage. But IQ specifically, in terms of how we test it and how it's used to project how people will function in society, it really doesn't even make biological sense how it'd be environmental. And that's why study after study that I have here seems to point that. And then as we're saying, IQ kind of dictates how successful you'll be in society. And if you, for example, take from the high IQ, give to the low IQ, that doesn't make you any more efficient because they're low IQ. They're not necessarily going to be the best at knowing what to do with wealth or resources. That's kind of an inherent issue.
yeah, they're not very good at innovating. Let's move on. I think we should get back to the question that Brian asked originally.
Yeah, I have a
What
question
is your
about
problem?
this because this.
What is your problem with capitalism as it's being run in the United States? Like, what issues do you
exploitation
have?
or
Well, first we should probably figure out where capitalism, or at the very least the market economy, originates from. Now,
Can I just ask Danny Brian, a brief question?
go shoot.
Brian, do you
Shoot.
believe in the equality of opportunity?
I believe everyone has the opportunity to do what they want, depending. Now, you don't start off in the same point, obviously, but you all have the same opportunity. It's how you use what you have to get where you want.
Yeah, opportunity.
So,
it's not opportunity. What
do I believe that we should take from people that have been successful and give it to people that aren't successful because that somehow makes it more equal? No, and as I've stated before, and as I pointed out with the Congressional Budget Office report, clearly if you're high IQ, you're able to escape poverty.
Do you believe
That's
people?
happened frequently.
Okay, but didn't you say earlier that that IQ is genetic?
It's very genetic, yes.
So don't you think someone who was born poor, a lot of their family could have been poor, and thus for many generations they struggled to get education?
but education
Education is not
That's
IQ.
not
Again,
how not how it works. You can't just put someone in the classroom.
Well, education's not IQ. Like I stated before, that's a fundamental misunderstanding on what IQ is. It's not education. IQ is how quickly you can solve something.
Yeah, it's literally
It's like
if I give you a puzzle, the how quickly you can come to the correct answer to that puzzle is your IQ. Yeah, you don't study for an IQ test; you just take it. I mean, that's why you can literally give an IQ test to a 3-year-old, get the same result as you'll get when they're 80. I mean, because it's just like it's not like, well, who won the Second World War? It's literally it's not like you have. Yeah, it's not how much information you can retain, although people with higher IQs are good at retaining information. But anyway, let's go back to the first question because you guys still haven't answered this. What is your problem with capitalism?
Is it like exploitation or what? You have a
Well,
problem with the?
first, let's talk about the origins of the market economy and furthermore
wait.
capitalism. We
Brian,
have to discuss this.
Go ahead, Pat. Go ahead, Pat.
Brian, can you directly answer my question? Do you believe all people should be born equal? Yes or no?
No, because you're not born equal, you idiot, because of evolution.
But do you believe that would be
equal, there's no evolution. No, there's no evolution.
Better if we had equal opportunities. And
everybody has equal opportunity. Everybody is born with two.
If everyone was born equal, how do you evolve? Why does evolution happen? Have you taken biology?
No, but
Why
my
does
point is
evolution-
that do you
you
believe
haven't
it would
taken
be
biology,
ideal
okay.
for people to have the same opportunities when they're born and maybe end up
How do you
different
do that?
later
How
in
do you
life based on
possibly do
how
that? Do you
hard
want
they
to
work?
stick a magic
Question,
pill
two
up the fucking
questions.
vagina?
Oh, for fuck's sake! What does any of this have to do with
Question.
anything? Let's just get back to the
Question.
thing
sorry.
at
Well,
hand.
let
Go
me
ahead.
answer,
Yeah.
let me
Asked to me.
answer Pat's question. So are you
fuck's
asking,
sake.
should everybody be born equal? Because no, they shouldn't be born equal. I mean, the reality is if you want evolution, you need inequality.
Oh, this is so fucking.
And I don't see how you would.
All right, let's just let
Do you want
Danny
me to answer his
speak.
question or not?
Let's just let Danny speak.
Go on your
All right,
rant.
so let's
I
go
know-
first to the origins of the market economy. Now, for the most part, it can be traced back to the axial age being from 800 BC to 600 AD. Now, prior to that, we had more or less a form of credit asymmetric, unquantifiable mutual exchange of goods, where more or less.
Fucking don't read Wikipedia. Just answer the question. What
No,
is
this
your
is
problem with the United States and the?
We have
We
to
don't
go
want
through-
to.
I understand if
We
it's
don't
perfect.
want you to read.
I know it's
We have
perfect.
to-
Capitalism
we
is
have to-
amazing, but
no.
please.
We have to go through the history of
No,
it.
we don't. This is just you filibuster.
We
You're going to
No, no, no.
bore.
We
Yes, we do. If
absolutely-
we're to understand the system, we need to know where it fucking comes from.
If you want to talk about history, clearly you guys
Okay.
are fucking caught in it because you still think communism works. Like, let's fucking
No, let's
live
go
in the
back.
present.
Yeah.
Let's go back to this because for the most
All right,
part,
let's
up
get
until
into-
Mesopotamia, social trust is what
You're
ruled
going to
mutual
bore
exchange.
everyone to death.
We still have to discuss this
Just
because
get
we want to
into
talk. If we
exploitation.
want,
Tell me.
we're getting there, but we have
I
to
don't
talk
give
about.
a damn about
No,
your history.
we absolutely do.
You're
have
not
to.
going to rant for 15 minutes just
You
so you can
can't
dominate the
ask
mic.
me a question.
Why don't you explain
and
to me
then
the theory of
stop
exploitation so I can
This is
refute
the
it?
fucking dumbest debate ever.
Just
Now,
answer the fucking question. What is your
No,
problem?
just let him talk.
Issue.
I-
You're
He's
going
getting
off on
there.
a rant.
He's
Well,
talking
then
about
get
it.
there.
Now
Stop
let him
giving
me
me-
speak.
right now. We're not going to be there for 15 minutes. Fucking BC.
Get to
We're
the
gonna talk
damn
about the
point.
fucking Bible.
This is not difficult. If we want to understand the system and what its issues is, we have to go.
Are
to
workers
origins.
exploited? Yes or no? Answer my question.
Yeah, for
you-
the most part.
Why?
Now, can you let him finish his story? 'Cause
Well,
we
No, I
spent
don't want
time
to hear
on
his
this.
fucking story. I want to
For
debate.
instance,
Well, too
why
bad
it's
because this
wrong.
is important.
Well,
No,
it's
I
not.
don't give a
It's
damn about his
important.
story.
we could, for
Workers
instance,
are exploited. You said workers are exploited, right?
point
So
to
explain time
the
preference.
essence of what Marx's
Explain
theory
time
was.
preference then.
Or we could explain time preference. What about it?
How do you explain that phenomenon that's been completely accepted by economists?
You're gonna have to explain
everywhere.
further. You can't just say, "Oh, how
You
do
do
you?"
not know what? Do you not know what time preference is?
No, I know what it is. I just
Okay,
want to
then explain to me.
how.
For example, workers and capitalists have different time preferences. Workers, you can't trade present goods against future goods except at a discount. I mean, that's pretty self-evident. So with workers, for example, they would trade away potential future good for present good. For example, if you're building a car, workers get a check every 2 weeks or so instead of waiting until the car's finished. The capitalist takes the risk. The capitalist eventually profits off that because of that. I mean, it's kind of like if I asked for a loan of $1,000, you both can answer this. If I asked for a loan of $1,000 and you knew within 1 year's time I would pay you back in full 100%, would you accept that deal? Yes or no?
Yes.
Are you an idiot? So you're going to loan
what are you saying? I should?
$1,000. You're going to loan me $1,000 just to get $1,000 back in 1 year. Do you know how retarded that sounds? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. You would. What the fuck did you gain from that? You were just out $1,000 for
Nothing.
a year.
Oh, I'm happy
That's
with
the-
what I have.
So you're just going to give away $1,000 for the fuck of it, and you're not going to have it for a year, and you're going to get
Okay,
nothing
your
from it.
point. Ad hominem. Get to your point.
No one out. Okay, the point is, anyone with high stomachs would not take that deal. They'd be like, "No, I'm not giving you $1,000 now for you to give me $1,000 after it's been inflated and it's actually worth less money a year from now. Instead, I'll give you $1,000 now. You pay me $1,100 in 1 year's time." That's essentially what we're talking about with time preference. Workers acknowledge this, capitalists acknowledge that, and they meet each other's time preference. This is a phenomenon completely accepted by the social scientists. So I'm curious your response to that. And I'm still
Let
dumbfounded.
me ask you
have
this.
accepted that
Should I
deal.
even pay you back the money? Because technically the money isn't your property. It's my property. It's our property.
Money is
So I can just take as much money as I want from you. I don't even have to pay that shit back. I'll just
Money is
take the
actually
money. Yeah.
So how about this? I'll just assume you guys concede that point because I don't think you're too aware of worker exploitation theory in yourself. So workers, if you have a counter for workers being exploited, give it. If not, we need to move on.
Well, like I was going to say before, the essence and the core, more or less, of what Marx's critique of capitalism is his
You're
theory of
not
alienation.
answering my question of time preference.
I'm getting there. Again, this
After
the core
Stop.
of what the core of what creates more or less the exploited and humane form of capitalism, and Marx's critique of capitalism is Marx's theory of alienation and the estranged labor in which man is divorced from, say, the products of his own labor, divorced from society in a hyper-competitive market, and
Labor doesn't create value.
what does?
Supply and demand. That's what the law of supply and demand asserts.
Well,
that
no.
Do you want me to read you the law of supply and demand?
I know what the law of supply and demand is, but here's the thing: is
Clearly
that
you don't.
for instance, demand itself is more or less, as opposed to a downward skew, it can shake any shape due to income changes. I believe Steve Keen talks about this here in Can We Avoid Another Financial Crisis? Changes in income change demand preference because people with higher levels of income aren't going to have the same levels of demand. And as such, demand curves can take many different shapes. This is known, say, in mostly post-Keynesian circles. And supply and demand in general are not able to, say, create value.
Do you want me just to kind of explain it a little bit better, because I don't think you're understanding. And I don't want you to go off topic on something that's completely irrelevant, because that's not good for your case.
No,
It's not helping you.
For instance,
I'm trying to help you to make a better competitive
Can I
argument.
add something from earlier? Is when you said about lending me $1,000.
No,
I
no,
thought
let's
we'd moved
please
on
one
from
point
that,
at a time.
but-
One point at a time.
Okay.
So I don't think you fully understand the point I'm making with supply and demand, and I don't want you to continue on a misconception, because that's bad for your argument, and to be quite frank, it bores me. So would you like me to clarify my argument to where you could better refute it?
well, I get what you're saying is that supply and demand is what creates value. Demand more or less representing, say, the value that people hold for a commodity. But value in and of itself, as we understand it as Marxists, refers to the social relations behind a commodity. A commodity in exchange, for instance.
Let me ask you something. Does the value of a diamond matter if you found it just walking, down the road, or if it was mined for 1,000 days? Let's say you just randomly stumbled upon a diamond. Is that diamond less valuable?
No, the diamond still had to be mined up somewhere.
No. Well,
Not necessarily.
Well, not necessarily. No. Let's say a diamond just kind of you found it just walking and you picked it up and there it is. It wasn't really mined. Is that diamond?
What do you mean not really?
Let's say okay. Let's put this here. Here's a better example.
Okay, well, let me give you this example. Let's say you mined for 1 day, and you found a diamond. Is that diamond worth more than a diamond you found that took 1,000 days to mine?
No, it's not, because what the Marxist law of value deals with is the social value of a commodity in general, the value of a commodity to society. For instance, say the reason why a mud pie, which is what you're getting at, the mud pie argument.
No, a diamond's not a mud pie.
No, what you're doing is the mud pie argument. Like, why isn't a mud pie valuable if it took a lot more value than, say, a diamond to make? And
a mud pie is irrelevant.
The reason is that the law of value, or as it's commonly called, and I think improperly, the labor theory of value, generally speaking,
socially necessary use of labor time.
Yes, it deals with the social.
Okay, you realize that's literally
it doesn't deal with.
Do you realize? I have notes here right now because that's the same excuse everyone goes through.
Right here too, who deals.
Let me get into it. You realize social necessity is not well defined, and it's literally a roundabout process of supply and demand?
More or less.
It's literally not well defined.
So
you're literally conceding to my argument if you're taking that position.
No, because...
is it not a roundabout process of supply and demand?
Hold on. I actually have roundabout arguments.
If so, please...
No, because have you...
For example, let me give you an example. Let's say a worker spent his time tying a knot in a piece of cord, and he does it as effectively as possible. You're arguing with that position because that's the position Mark wrote slightly later on because it worked for him. that tying the knot wasn't a socially, necessary use of his labor time. The problem is what's socially necessary depends entirely on the demand of the finished product. So in this case, there's the knotted cord, which isn't. So it's essentially a roundabout, imprecise description of supply and demand, which was the point I was making earlier.
No.
You're literally just changing it around and trying to make it supply and demand to get away from what Marx said in Volume 1, Chapter 3.
No, because first of all, and I have this actually down right here.
No, you don't.
No, actually right here. Generally speaking, there's a strongly tested correlation between...
Please refute that the roundabout process is supply and demand, because that's all it is. And then if you also want to get the contradiction between Volume 1 and Volume 3 of Das Kapital, I would be very
transformation problem. That's fine.
No, that's not the transformation problem. It's the fact that they drastically changed the definition between Volume 1 and Volume 3.
Volume 1 takes simple commodity production as granted, whereas Volume 3... Regardless.
Do you want me to read you? Because I have notes right here.
I have capital right here.
I have it too.
Why not? This is just seems like it's going.
Here we go in Marx 1906, page 51 to 52. I can read you what he said.
Wait, he died in 1882. Was it published?
No. This is the no. There's different volumes.
The volume.
This is the cycle. This is volume
3 were published after Marx died.
This is volume 1. This is where he says it's possible to accurately measure the value of a skilled labor by looking at the exchange value of a production of skilled labor as against the product of unskilled labor. That makes no sense unless he believes the commodities tend to have exchange values at pure labor values. But then in volume 3, the idea is abandoned that the individual exchange values tend to equal abstract social necessary labor time. So that radically contradicts volume 1 of Capital, where he says, and I quote, that I just read you earlier of Capital 1 in page 51 to 52. I mean, either the products do exchange in the long run in proportion to the labor attached to them, in which case the equalization of gains of capital is impossible, or there's an equalization of the gains of capital, in which case it's impossible for the production to continue to be exchanged in proportion to the labor attached to them.
Yeah, this is transfer. The first thing would be to recognize that profit has two different sources Aggregate profits have two different sources, being...
So you're not going to address that.
This is...
I think you want to move on to maybe another topic.
I really think we should.
I think I'm just tired of being interrupted.
Well, you're not addressing it. I just literally
let's actually go back to the origins of capitalism, because that's important.
Dude, it doesn't matter. We didn't ask.
Yes, it
tell
does.
us about the origins of capitalism. We said, what is your problem with capitalism as it exists right now?
And we have to explain the origins to do that.
The problem with capitalism
Dylan, if you want to... Here's the deal. I'll let you guys go on your little history rant. It's all right, Dylan. I think we handled those last two sections. I think we'll just let him go on that rant.
Okay, go ahead. Talk about the history of capitalism. And then fucking at the end of it, explain what your problem with capitalism is, which you could have just said instead of telling us about BC. So good.
We have to do this because...
In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth.
Yeah.
Right. So the origins of the market economy, at least as we understand it today, originate around the axial age of 800 BC to 600 AD. And prior to that was a form of more or less social trust ruled mutual exchange. And this was the case until Mesopotamia. For instance, you do dishes, I'll mow your lawn this week. But eventually the trust was phased out in favor of credit. The credit was represented in the form of coins, and the need to quantify these things was to figure out an exact measurement of how much.
Wait a minute. They used coins at one point in society. I didn't know this. I'm so glad you're giving us this lecture.
Right. But
I'm curious what you guys think of the sun theory value too.
Well, this is
wait, I can predict the future. I think at some point they'll change to a fiat currency. Am I right?
What do you guys think about the sun theory value?
This is talking about the origins of money and debt. But anyway,
can I ask you a question really quick before you go on, because I don't want to go too far.
For fuck's sake.
What do you think about the sun theory of value?
I think I have cancer.
Have you heard of the sun theory of value?
No, but it did give me cancer, so it did create something.
I haven't even heard of it.
I haven't
Unlike labor, it actually creates something. Anyways, you can keep going about your rant.
In cancer. But eventually the trust was phased out in favor of credit, and the credit was represented in the form of coins. And the need to quantify these things was to figure out an exact measurement of how much one owes another. Say, you give someone your daughter to do whatever with, as was the case in those days. But the question becomes, how do you know how much this person you are serving owes you? And so this is where coins come in, because contrary to popular belief, the coins were invented not as a medium of exchange, but as a representation of credit. And furthermore, later on, the credit system would eventually be phased out in favor of currency as we get it today.
Are you saying your problem with capitalism is money?
We're getting there. Empires would hire mercenaries.
You've literally been going on with 5 minutes, but okay.
Empires would hire mercenaries, but they cannot use mutual trust to hire a mercenary. Instead, the mercenaries would be given a share of plunder, usually being gold. The market economy, as we get it, as we know it today, came from states hiring these mercenaries, usually using stolen gold. And so the claims from people that markets are some sort of natural phenomenon that emerged through, say, a barter economy and currency was adopted or efficiency are nonsense. The commercial markets loved by, say, right libertarians or anarcho-capitalists have their origins.
I'm glad there's a lot of anarcho-capitalists in this cat.
Have the war emerged?
You really wrecked that ANCAP over there, man. Good job.
Regardless, the commercial markets we have today more or less have their origins in this war and theft, and not some sort of voluntary transactions or a natural occurrence through the complexity of a barter system. And this gets into the issue of it, is that it had to be based on this theft in order for it to exist in the first place and come into existence. And this is well-documented anthropological evidence, too, about this. For instance, David Graeber's book, Debt the First 5,000 Years, documents very much the history of currency, its use in debt, and how it has currency, as we know it today, has its origins in, say, this war and theft. And so that, I would say, is the biggest issue with, at the very least, market-based systems, because...
Okay, wait, can you repeat that again without doing the history now? What is the problem?
They have
without attacking the ANCAP over there?
They have their origins in war and theft, which is well documented through an anthropological evidence.
Well, hang on a second. Let's talk about war for a second. You're essentially trying to get to the point where capitalism's the cause of war, correct?
I'm not sure I would necessarily say
I think
subscribe to more so. I'm more so saying yes, that the war, in a sense, led to an imperial conquest. Led to the creation of capital, the market economy as we get it today, not necessarily just
I'll get into
capitalism.
like the biology behind it, because like, are you aware orangutans go to war, correct?
Sure.
Like they do. There's a 1971
Sure, but we're not
study?
dealing with orangutans. We
Well,
are dealing
we
with
clearly are.
no, because we are dealing with human societies. Human societies do not act.
Where
the
do you
same
think
way.
humans came from, dipwad?
Not orangutans. We came from species.
Do we not have a common ancestor? Are they
Common
not incredibly
ancestor, but we
related?
didn't
Common ancestor with
Do you
everything
know how
on
many?
Earth.
talking about.
Are you kidding
Do
me?
you
Do you not
know
this is like
the
literally
genes?
first day of biology. You walk in there, they tell you this.
Yeah, we have a
Do you
common.
know how many genes we
ancestor, but
share
that-
with orangutans?
Yes, that doesn't matter though, because the societies don't act in the
So
same
where
way.
did it come from?
Common
Are
ancestor
orangutans
doesn't-
attacking
You have to
because of
realize how the
capitalism?
brain works. There's different parts of the brain that function differently at different
So
times.
orangutans
You're
going to
fighting,
war
you're
because of
reverting back to your
capitalism?
reptilian brain, which comes from a shared ancestor, right? They don't have as developed as a brain as humans do, but
Are they-
when fighting and things like defending yourself and those natural instincts to fight and defend, those are using the same parts of a brain.
Are the
as
orangutans?
yeah.
Are the orangutans going to war because the Rothbards don't have a central bank there yet?
We're not
I
dealing
mean, like I said,
orangutan societies. We're
come
dealing
from a
with
very violent, very aggressive, and territorial. That's where we came from. I mean, that's where
not
we evolved from.
necessarily.
And,
The Russian biologist Peter Kropotkin documents more or less history of species mutually interacting for their own benefit for survival.
well, there are
no,
species that do that, but
Competition.
orangutans will literally rip other orangutans.
But what does
face off
orangutans have to do with human society?
Because because you're not understanding.
Because we don't have fucking.
This has nothing to do with
Neanderthal walking
anything.
around anymore.
Yes. Okay, you're telling this as
Well,
a
it does because
goes about
wars
fucking
derive from
coins in
biology.
Mesopotamia. Okay, like
It's important to
Yes,
understand
what
the
I'm
origins
trying
of the
to-
system if
What
we're
I'm
going to
trying to
discuss it.
Is it not important to understand the origins
What
of
I'm trying
evolution, how our
to-
brain evolved? Is that not important as well? Because
Yeah,
you're
but
I'm
Yes,
trying
it
to explain
is.
to you
Yes,
where
but
war
you're
comes
acting
from.
as
There's
you're
a
acting
very
as if
evolutionary.
no, because you're acting as if markets emerged from some sort of natural occurrence, when in fact,
Oh.
I've never made that statement. At
Human
no
nature
point. That's the
evolved from a
single biggest
natural
problem.
occurrence. Human nature
I'm-
evolved
I'll-
over
you have
time.
to show no. You have to show first of all that the social is not the natural, and vice versa through action.
No.
Okay, let me ask you this: Why do we go to war? Why do we fight? Answer that
Why do
question,
we have
please.
sex?
Answer that question.
Why do we have sex? Tell me why we
Why
have
do-
A lot of
why is the
reasons.
natural
We fight
instinct?
for a lot of reasons.
No,
It's
no, answer the
literally,
question.
it's literally biologically related.
Exactly.
Everything,
There's no
almost everything can go back to evolution. Why do we have sex? Why do we eat? Evolution.
I don't
Why
think
do we
he's
go to
saying
war? There's a
war
lot of
because
studies
it's because of capitalism. I think he's saying capitalism is because of war.
Yeah, but what Brian's saying is that I just like pulled an Obama just on. What Brian is saying, no, what Brian is saying is that rip. What Brian is saying is that
Rage quit.
I guess we did won the debate. What Brian is saying is that
I want to get into economic calculation problem next, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
because you kept talking over him and yelling, and it's
okay,
annoying.
dude. If they
He's literally
every time
strawmanned us.
fucking-
Yeah, let's be a little fair here. I mean, it went both ways. So, do you want to get into the economic calculation problem?
Can you
Talk
make a
about
better
the-
point refuting evolution?
Yeah.
Hold
What
on.
I'm trying to explain is war and conflict is a byproduct of evolution, and I don't know how you would even attempt to refute that because it's asinine. I mean, unless you're a creationist.
No,
which
what
is
he was
fine.
saying was because capitalism came from war, not the other way around. Because he was talking about mercenaries.
where does
Wait a minute,
war
wait a
come
minute.
from?
In the fucking
Where
Communist
does war come
Manifesto, it
from?
talks about how for a communist system to work, there has to be a revolt. There has to be a revolution.
Violent
my
revolution. Yeah.
Is that not how it fucking communism literally
Yes.
says? So what the fuck? Why you could go capitalism instead comes from war? They talk about a revolution before you can even have communism. So first of all, you make the argument or don't, but it's a terrible argument to make when your system requires a revolution.
Okay, what? Okay, he was saying capitalism came from war, not the other way around.
Okay, where does communism come from? A revolution. What is a
Where does
revolution?
war
What's your
come
point?
from? Where does
I'm saying
war
you
come from?
Yeah, but you can't criticize capitalism for coming from war
Between a
when
popular
communism.
revolution and a war between two different states,
Regardless,
especially
it's
ancient
completely-
slave states and feudal states.
Regardless,
what
it's
is your
completely-
problem?
Yeah, we'll get into that, I guess. I kind of want to talk about the economic calculation problem at one point because it's something we've touched on before, Pat, and I don't know if you quite understand it.
Okay, let's go to our notes here.
What are you pulling your notes up on?
Google Documents.
Okay, well, I meant specifically what topic?
A lot of what we're talking about.
Okay, economic calculation or what? Because I don't believe you can properly allocate resources because you haven't ever before, and it doesn't even make sense in theory. You sound really depressed there, Pat.
Come on, I'm taking my time here. I'm not. This is
while
why
we're
I don't
waiting,
really
you
like
may as
live
well
debates.
throw in
Is
an
they're-
ad read if you would like to. No, I'm just kidding.
While I wait for the communists to
Throw
fire
some
up Google.
capitalism in here.
Ugh. So yeah, basically, do you want me to go on with my argument on economic calculation because, and then maybe you can refute it while we wait for you to go find your notes?
Yeah,
to
go
say-
ahead. Just go ahead. I'm gonna eat my bread.
So like the issue is like those that are employed in the means of production in a socialist economy, they're not able or incentivized to experiment in new ways to make a profit. So to continually to search for new ways to remake or to modify their employment to increase productivity, as the private owners of the means of production would in a competitive economy. And the services of the productions of the means is essentially guaranteed. All the means of production would be collectively owned. There would be no counterpart providing competitive to exist. Basically, there's absolutely zero pressure coming from potential competing firms. And I guess the way to illustrate the operation in the dark you would have, let's assume a factory in a socialist society makes a particular kind of consumer good, and we'll call that good X, okay? So X. Assume that in order to make X, only two kinds of inputs are needed, right? You need input A, input B. So then let's assume that there's 3 different methods for producing 1 unit of X, okay? You have method 1 that requires 9 units of A and 10 units of B, and 10 units of A and 9 units of B for 2, and then 3 requires 10 units of A, 10 units of B. From the question, which method of the factory would pick in order to produce 1 unit of X? Which one would be most efficient? One might argue that it makes sense to use fewer resources as possible to make a given output, since that would leave more resources over to do other things. But this alludes to what economists call basically opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is how you do things to the most efficient way possible, to where you forego something in order to gain something else, which it's pretty self-explanatory.
We've got someone else joining.
Okay. So if you were to use, certain ways, it would cause issues. Like, for example, that would require for factory through output, the output method 3. If you look at method 3, for example, where you use the same units as B as A to make 1 unit of X, and you compare that with A, then there's no way to properly tell which opportunity cost would be the most efficient, because you're essentially operating completely in the dark without these mechanisms. So my question is, how do you do that? Because I know you mentioned something about, well, the workers would own this. It doesn't really have anything to do with that. There's no opportunity cost involved. And how do you plan to do that without opportunity cost?
This is a fucking
Nice.
meme. Dude, why can't we just get like a reasonable communist on the show that knows how to debate? This is
Well, it would be nice if the first guy's like, no, 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 no.
This is ridiculous. There's not one communist out there. There's just not one. It's insane. It's literally insane. We're sitting here. It's a normal show. I don't even know if you can hear me from the mic.
You want to do a podcast? Welcome to the TSFD podcast.
Welcome to the TSFD podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. We have a couple topics tonight. No, this is insane. I mean, I have pages of like arguments that I don't even have to get to because we're reading history about Mesopotamia. Like, it's just,
Yeah, let's read the history of like the Soviet Union and
yeah.
Cuba and
Just to
Red
get to the
China.
point, like,
Sorry, I'm back.
What?
Did
I'm
you hear
back.
anything I even said?
Heard some of it. So we're talking about innovation here in the history of existing socialism.
No, we're talking about opportunity cost.
Okay, well, someone was talking about the history of existing socialism. I think that would be something valuable to delve into.
The failures of other communist societies, you mean?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, if you want, like, for example, I know one time you mentioned, we can talk about like the Soviet election. You mentioned that they had the democracy in the Soviet Union was really good.
I remember last
Yes,
you made some argument about
also
people writing.
democracy.
Well, I
writing
have a
in-
quote from Dr. Robert Conquest of Stanford University. He describes the Soviet electric system as a set of phantom institutions and arrangements which puts a human face on the hideous reality, a modeled constitution adopted in the worst period of terror, and guaranteeing human rights in elections in which there were only one candidate and 99% voted, a paradigm which has never raised any questions in opposition or absence. And then I also have, if I scroll down here, I have an example of this guy who he was filling out his ballot in North Korea. And because there's only one person on the ballot, he wrote the word comedy on it and turned in his anonymous ballot. And then lo and behold, the secret police bang down his door and he has to serve 10 years in a labor camp in the freezing cold for putting comedy down instead of voting for Stalin again.
I think we can objectively
Okay, so
agree
you're talking
that, like,
about...
there's no fair voting that goes on in communist countries. I mean, it just doesn't happen. You can't make an argument that it does.
Okay, so you're talking about the 1936 Soviet Constitution. It was unleashed in the worst period of terror, as you said, right? Yeah, that's what you're saying from Dr. Robert Conquest.
No, I'm referring,
yes, that's what you said. That, yeah, that's what you said.
If you would shut up for 2 seconds and let me explain, you Muslim. I quoted him in terms of the election.
Okay, you want to talk about being
and then
Muslim?
I gave the example of the comedy.
Say that again, because I was talking over you. I'm sorry.
Then I talked about the comedy. I talked about the guy that wrote comedy on his ballot and was sentenced to 10 years in a gulag.
Okay, well, you see, the thing about the DPRK is here.
No,
We don't,
I mean, can you
they're
justify
form
that?
of, so they don't, okay, okay, when it comes, they are, the DPRK is,
Because you called them
have Juche
counter-revolutionary.
socialism.
Because you
That's
called them
not Marxian
counter-revolutionaries
socialism.
before. Have you abandoned that counter-revolutionary viewpoint now, to where it's okay to? Well, before you said it's okay to kill people that are counter-revolutionaries. Do you still cling to that?
Okay, so
That
there's a quote
belief?
from Maximilien Robespierre saying, "Do you want a revolution without a revolution?" Of course, during the French Revolution,
So yes,
yes, because the newborn
you do support
revolutionary
killing-
French First Republic was threatened on all sides by the reactionary powers of old Europe, and of
So you-
course they had
so you
terror.
do
And
support
the
killing
newborn
people
Soviet
that-
Union was threatened on all sides of the capitalist powers of the old world, and of course they had to safeguard themselves. Of course they had.
So, like,
The
for
revolution
example,
is terrible
I
and
get it,
bloody,
you
and there is going to
support-
be a revolutionary terror against the enemies of the revolution.
Put your Quran down for 2 seconds. Listen, I get that you support it now and that you're justifying it because you're so indoctrinated into the cult of Marxism that you honestly think it's okay to kill people that disagree with you. But I have to be honest.
No, I think it's
quite
okay
sick
to
and
kill
disgusting.
people who are trying to kill us and act against the revolution.
How? I'm not trying to kill you, dumbass. But if I was there, you'd put a gun to my head and overthrow me.
No,
I'm a
because
capitalist.
okay, yeah, but when
What are you
things
going to do? I'm not
Okay,
doing
yeah,
it. You
you
would
just
throw me in a
admitted that
prison.
okay, but the October Revolution
You're a
and the
psychopath.
events that followed it were
Pat,
a war,
Pat,
and of
You're
course people would
insane.
die.
No,
you're a psychopath.
you will be dealt
You
with.
are a psychopath. You don't put people in fucking political prisons where you work them to death because they disagree with you.
And what do you expect from a revolution?
I don't
These
expect you to
revolutions
kill
I
are
people.
love how
bloody
your
and
partner
violent,
just
and they
went
had
off on
many
how violent
opponents.
capital is, like the roots
Listen,
of
Pat,
capitalism.
Pat, here's the thing, Pat. There's
My
big
name's
reasons
Holden.
to be, whatever the fuck your name is, the Muslim guy. There's big reasons to be
Oh,
concerned
you want to talk about Islam? It was you people who funded the radical
We also
Muslims
believe
to
in-
overthrow
You
the
guys,
socialist
did
government
they-
in
you wanna talk
Afghanistan,
about
who would later
Islam?
become the Taliban.
Do you want to talk about Islam?
We
You also
Marxists
got
were the
your
ones
ass kicked by
fighting
them.
radical
Hey,
Islam
at
in
least the
Afghanistan
Taliban-
in the
at
80s,
least the
and you were the
Taliban
ones
fought
supporting
communists.
it.
Hey,
At
at
least they
least the
killed
Taliban
communists.
killed less people than the 93 million people that communism is.
And I want to
Again,
get
I've
back
already
onto your
stated that
point.
Jason
You're-
Unruh made a video addressing that.
I already
Okay,
gave you
dude.
a study from Harvard University, Hawaii University, Washington
And
State
besides, the
University.
authors of
Complete
Victims of
historic
Communism
consensus.
admitted that they made quote-unquote decimal errors.
Well, I have studies from Harvard here that has it 93 million. Hawaii University. Basically, every PhD historian saying you're wrong.
Okay, we can go over it country by country,
Like,
and Growth
people that
Prefer also has a
absolutely-
PhD, and he
Whoa,
objects.
whoa, 1 second. I don't want you to get away from the topic that I just mentioned because you basically said it's okay to kill people that disagree with you. Here's my concern. I posed very legitimate concerns throughout the course of this debate regarding communism. For example, the labor theory of value, I very, very easily demolished right in front of you. You guys just sat there for 2 seconds with your jaw open. You said nothing. Worker exploitation and time preference, you guys act like you've never heard of it. All these concepts and fundamental theories of Marxism, IQ, all these things are legitimate concerns I have with your theory. And I think I'm completely reasonable to be concerned with it. And the fact you have all these authoritarian regimes that have been done in the name of communism. And the fact that you have the audacity to say, oh, well, you have concerns against communism. I guess you got to go to the gulag. You literally make your movement.
No,
like
I'm saying when
work,
people
you
are
don't
trying
support
to
them.
violate.
So let me ask
people
you
are-
something.
No, it's
Let
not.
me ask you
you're-
something.
It's
No,
not that
you're
don't
dodging
like-
the question. You're dodging the question. I would absolutely resist the communist movement. I would be considered to you a counter-revolutionary, and you personally would send me to a fucking labor camp. You're either a psychopath or you're so indoctrinated into the cult of communism that you're blinded and can't see basic morality. It's disgusting, and I think you really need to reevaluate your life if that's the basis of your ideas.
Sorry, I had to go. Can you repeat that again, please?
I'm saying you're either a psychopath or you're so indoctrinated into the cult of communism that you think it's justified to kill me because I disagree with you, and I would vote every single time against a communist. I would vote for a fascist before I vote for a communist.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is,
Then what are you going to do with me?
No,
What are you gonna do with
most
me?
revolutions have seen
I'm putting
violence,
comedy on
and
my
the
ballot.
revolutionaries have to use violence to stop the counter-revolutionaries because
So
the
when I put-
counter-revolutionaries are going to use violence to stop them.
When I
The
put
Russian
comedy
White
on a ballot,
Army
you're
was called
sending
an
me to-
army because
When I put comedy on the ballot, you're sending me to the labor camp. Stop dodging it. Stop changing the words to counter-revolutionary. You're talking to me right now.
No.
You are classifying
No.
me as a counter-revolutionary to dehumanize me, to clear your own morality when you send me away to die.
No,
in a
I didn't
freaking
say you were. I'm saying there were
concentration camp.
counter-revolutionaries.
What are you doing with
in
me?
the socialist?
I'm a counter-revolutionary. I'm not supporting communism. I
So
will,
are you
to
going
my death,
so
actively use every voice to speak out against it like I am now. You think Stalin would put up with this?
so wait, okay.
You know what happened to, you know what what happened in Castro's administration when you had Lonzo Rocco, who was a vlogger, who went to demonstrate the ladies in white, which, by the way, the ladies in white, for those of you who don't know, they're basically wives, daughters, sisters of people whose husbands or brothers or whoever are political prisoners in Cuba. And he went to go document them. And
Oh yeah, I
obviously
forgot
you had
about
the Pope
that. So
coming
you're
in.
going to talk about
So this guy
go
came
ahead, keep
over,
going.
kidnapped. So the police kidnapped him, drove him 30 miles away, put a gun to the back of his head, made him kneel on the grass, and said, "You're on notice. Stay away from the demonstration." That's
Okay.
exactly what you would do to me.
Okay,
You
so
do the
no,
exact
what
same
would
thing.
you do?
It's
What would you do?
disgusting.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Not kill
So
my own people.
What
It's
I
a pretty
was-
simple
so-
concept. Generally speaking, it's not a good idea to go kill your own people. It's not a good idea to kill people, period, unless you have damn good reason. And you certainly don't kill them just because they disagree with you.
But you got to realize
yeah,
that
that's
this
one
is
of the-
like the only way that a communist system can exist, because there's no such thing as a
You have to
utopian
force them.
society. So you have to get rid of everybody that disagrees so you can create
The
your
reality
utopian
is
society.
you're forced to use this sort of thing. You're forced to use the brute force of government to enforce these ideas, because people like me who understand high school economics, I'm not great at economics, but I understand, I would say, basic college level economics, are saying, you know what? This seems to define every law of economics that I've studied. Maybe it's not a good idea. You know, maybe it's got a bad track record with history.
It's not even that. You just look at the history of the Soviet Union. You don't even have to understand economics. Like, you can look at the history of the Soviet Union and you can see.
And
that
I have
it
to be
didn't work.
honest. I have to be honest with you, Pat. You keep saying counter-revolutionary. All you are trying to do is dehumanize the people that disagree with your batshit crazy cult of communism.
Okay, so
And you're using that as moral justification to kill people. And it's disgusting.
So what I'm trying to say is, if the time for debate came to an end and we were up in arms against each other, what do you do?
If you're trying to
Can I
kill me,
bring
I'm
up an
going to happily
example?
defend myself.
Let me bring
I'm
up an
not going to go
example.
kill
What
you.
do you
because you're a
do?
communist.
What
No, hold on,
do you
wait,
do if
no.
you were in a?
This is important that we cover the Argentinian Civil War of 1812. Okay.
I saw your video. I know you're making that up.
No, this is completely legitimate. This is completely
I saw your
legitimate.
video. I know you're making that up.
No, this is legit. This is legit. No, I'm serious.
I know you're making that up.
Listen,
No, I saw your video.
listen.
Nice try.
Pat,
This was a
Pat,
counter-revolutionary
Pat,
movement,
Pat, I wanna-
okay, by the Brotherhood of
Argentina
Steel.
didn't gain
and-
independence until 1816 because Spain was weakened from the Napoleonic Wars. I know where
No,
you're
no,
going.
no.
You're making
What
this up.
happened
I saw
is-
your video.
What happened is Jorge
I saw your
Washington,
video.
Jorge Washington,
Washington, George Washington.
Jorge Washington, okay, and Homás Jefe de Zone, all right,
Yo, nice try.
on board
Pat,
on
Pat,
horseback, took
Pat,
over
I wanna
the city of Good
I want to
Springs.
address your claim at one point too.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you mentioned what would we do when we're up in arms, or when we're on the battlefield. The thing is, I'm not trying to kill you because you're a communist. I think you're very dumb. I think you're very stupid, and I think you're indoctrinated in a cult. You're the one that's advocating killing me. I don't want to kill you. You want to go be a communist? You can go sit in your memes on Instagram. Communism is not going to go anywhere because anyone with room temper IQ knows that's absolutely a horrible idea. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go kill you because of it. You would,
I ask you
if you had the power. The only thing saving us is so many people know it's dumb and stupid. You don't have the power to do it. If you had the power to do it, you would send me, you'd send my family to a gulag. That's what's
Can
so
I ask you a
disgusting.
question? Can I ask you a question, Patrick?
Yes, and my name's Holden.
What's your profile picture on Google Hangouts?
Cuba.
Why is
A
there
picture of a
looks
street
like
I took in
shit.
Why is there fucking one car on the road, dude? There's a guy
Looks like
literally
shit.
walking with groceries. There's one car. Like, why don't they?
Cuba's a
Have,
smaller
One bag of
country.
groceries he was able to get.
no, it's that people can't afford cars.
And there's lots of public
Do you know the
transportation in
average-
Havana.
Do you know the average wage for workers in Cuba? It's $20.
Yes, but I've
a
covered this
month.
many times before. Is Cuba is
$20
much better
a
than the
month.
rest of Latin America, which is capitalist.
On
Cuba
what?
is
That'll
much
get 'em-
better
that'll get 'em
than the
10
rest of
minutes outside
capitalist
the fucking-
Latin
healthcare?
America, such as
On healthcare?
when you look at
On
the
healthcare,
Human Development
education,
Index
which
in
one
the
do you want?
2017 HDPR
Okay,
Human
let's talk about
Development
that.
Report is
Let's talk about that.
0.775.
Let me talk about
What
that.
you were saying
For example,
about-
the infant mortality rate. Do you know how you define infant mortality rate?
Story that it's manipulated
How
because
long
of
is
the
it? What is
abortions,
the
blah
world-
blah blah. But there's much more to it than the infant mortality.
No. No. How long it takes for a child to die until it's no longer considered infant mortality?
No.
Do you have any idea? It's 1 month. Do you know that's like what the United States does? So if a baby dies 3 weeks after,
Yes, I've heard this many
accident,
times before,
infant
and I'm
mortality.
not using that.
Do you know how?
I have not
Do you
used
know
that
how long
argument.
Cuba waits?
Heard this
Do you realize?
argument before. They wait much
But wait a
longer, and their
second.
different their definition of infant mortality
Do you
is
know
different.
human? For example, when you look at the human index, that takes into consideration infant mortality rate. Cuba waits 3 days. So if a baby dies 5 days after it's born, they don't count it because they have to make it look good because it's shit. Go look at their hospitals.
Okay, but that's
Go
just
look at
one
any
part of
hospitals and
the.
visit. They're
That's just
shit.
one part of the Human Development Index. It also
Let's
takes
look
into
at
account things like
education. You
gross
wanna look at
national
education?
income per capita, and okay, sure.
You want to look at education, for example, and how easily manipulated it is?
I still
know
want
where
to talk
Cuba
about.
ranks?
I never got the answer
War
to
of
your
1812.
question about
Do you know
if I
where?
would
Do you know
kill
where
you.
Cuba ranks? Yeah, because you obviously would.
No, I want to answer your question about if I would kill you.
Do you know
because
where Cuba? Okay, go ahead. Because
there's
I'm a counter-revolutionary.
there's
so
a
you told me
communist
before you would.
revolutionary in country X, and you live in country X, and this revolution sets up a socialist state like Cuba, China, the USSR,
Well, let's
etc.
just say it's
What do you
United
do
States. Let's
if you
say
live in this country?
Let's say in the
Let's say
United
that
States, for
because
example.
reasons.
That's
Let's
country
just say
X.
it's in
We live
country
the United
X.
States. Fine,
No,
we
it's
live in
country
country X.
X.
I would use freedom of speech, and I would say, you know what? Communism is an inherently flawed idea. They can't calculate, they can't allocate resources. The labor theory of value is an absolutely bullshit conspiracy that no economist takes seriously. Right, left, every school of thought rejects the labor theory of value for the most part, 99% of them. Worker exploitation theory is bullshit. I've demonstrated this throughout the course of the debate. I would continue to do that. I'm a counter-revolutionary by every communist measure. I would protest the streets. I would picket signs. What are you going to do?
So are you
gonna
saying
kill
you're
me?
trying to stop the revolution?
Hell yes, but not violently. I'm saying this is a bad
Okay,
idea.
then I'm still going. Okay, so even if people are trying to overthrow the government peacefully, you're still going to try to stop them, and I would do the same to you. I don't think I would kill you, but I would definitely stand in your way.
Well, so for example, if I put comedy on my ballot, am I getting sent to the gulag? What if I go to a demonstration? Because every government there has done that. Soviet Union has done it. Red China. Do you know how many government operatives, civilian operatives, were in East Berlin? 1 in 3. That means if you're in a family of 6, there's a high probability 2 people in your family were in the government and they were telling them everything you were saying. So if you said anything wrong,
there's a rule in North Korea that literally once a week they have to get together and everybody has to report something that somebody else did, or else they get in trouble. So something that somebody else did wrong. Like everyone's watching each other at all time. That's why you don't see any revolts go on in North Korea, because they have to meet up once a week and everybody has to say one thing that somebody else did wrong, or else they get in trouble. So everybody's trying to blame somebody else for something and breaking a law or something like that. It's a genius,
and another,
it's stupid.
Sorry, I'm back. What were you saying?
Another concern I have, for example, is
I'm
look
back.
at
What were you
Catalonia,
saying?
Spain. I don't know what point you left.
You were talking about what you would do to protest.
Well,
can we get a
I'm a
real communist? I want to
by
get like an
every
actual
definition.
communist that knows what they're talking about on here, because this has just been stupid.
Half of it was just them being silent. One guy saying no, 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 or just flat out not saying anything. This guy's saying he wants to go kill people.
No, but if
I'm
people are
sorry.
going to stop the revolution, I'm going to stand in their way. You know, do you like the idea of a republic where people get to elect officials to represent them? That was brought about by the French Revolution, an incredibly violent and brutal revolution. And many counter-revolutionaries had to be guillotined to give us the liberty and equality and fraternity that much of the world enjoys today.
Yeah, because there's no communism.
People that disagree with me. I don't like the idea of just killing people that you disagree with.
No, but if you're going to stand and if you're going to try to stop us, then we're going to try to stop you.
I am
That's
absolutely
so
trying to stop you.
stupid.
I'm doing this right now to stop you because I don't
Then
want
I'm
you
going to
ever
try
be
to
a
stop
serious
you.
movement.
If you're going to
But
try
but
to
see, the problem
peacefully-
is Brian saying he's going to use freedom of speech. You're saying you're going to kill him. That's the whole point
if
he's
you're
making.
going to try to peacefully overthrow a socialist state, then of course I'm going to have to stop you and maybe send you to jail so you can't do that.
Oh
Because
my
of course,
God, dude, that's terrible. So wait a minute. So you're allowed to wait a minute. You're allowed to revolt. But it can't happen the other way around. Like if the people decide,
Well,
to
yes.
Yeah, when the people get pissed,
you
Well,
get
yeah,
to decide
because we
what's best
believe-
for the
it's
people.
fuck you.
You get to
Yes,
decide what's
okay,
best
what's
for the
your
people.
point?
My
Of
point
course
is
we're going
that
to defend
okay,
our state and try
listen,
to.
this is the problem with
I actually
communism.
wanna think-
This is the flaw. Look, this is the flaw. Because you're sitting here saying right now that it's totally okay for communists to revolt and take power. But then when rational people say this is stupid, we're going to revolt and take power back and get rid of the communists, you're saying, no, I only get to decide what's good for the people. You realize nobody likes communism, so you already know that you have to throw people in jail that disagree with you.
I want to thank you, Pat, for giving a very good argument against communism. You just admitted yourself the only way you can have it is when you silence everyone who disagrees with it. Because when you come on debates
no,
like
it's called trying to defend our interests.
You're what?
Of course, we're going to try
Pat.
to revolt for what we
Pat.
believe in, and you're going to try to
Whatever your
revolt
name
against
is.
what we believe in.
But you're killing people. I'm not killing anyone. I'm not killing one. I'm doing everything with my freedom of speech.
Oh,
whether
yeah,
it's
speaking of
debating here or
ideologies killing
posting.
people, we never really got onto the Congo Free State.
1 second. You're
That was something
literally
we
dodging my question.
Okay, go ahead.
You're literally
No,
dodging
keep
my
going.
question.
Keep going.
I am literally doing everything that would be considered counter-revolutionary. I'm having you on debates. I'm absolutely slaughtering you. You're like 0 for 4 now against me. I am doing everything on Instagram to stop you from becoming a legitimate movement because it's so stupid and so dangerous that people need to see how foolish it is in debates like this and discussions like this. And the only thing you can do is to silence people that do that, because every time you come on these live debates, you get slaughtered. So what do? You slaughter them. You slaughter the ones that speak.
You see us as a potentially dangerous movement, and you want to stop
I'm
us.
not killing you.
If we were in power, then we would see you as a potentially dangerous movement, and we would want to
here's
stop
the
you.
difference.
It works both ways.
Here's the difference. My side of government is in system. I'm not advocating that you get thrown in a gulag. You're saying, well, if you're protesting and you're doing all this, you might have to go to prison for disagreeing with me.
No, it's not disagreeing
That's
with me. It's trying to act against me.
Listen.
No,
Or
but
listen,
what's the
Pat,
difference?
Pat,
What's
listen.
the difference?
Pat,
Acting against
listen.
you is like coming out with a sign.
That's a telltale sign that
No,
you
you said you
would
would try to peacefully overthrow us.
cult.
Even if it's peaceful, you're still trying to stop us. And of course, we're going to defend
So?
ourselves.
I'm not killing
Wait a minute,
you 'cause you're trying to
wait.
overthrow this government.
There are attempts to peacefully transition the government all of the time in the United States. Like every single time there's an election. It's a peaceful transition of the
Pat,
Okay,
government.
no, I mean outside of elections.
This is a clear, Pat, this is a clear sign that you are in a cult. When you're willing to kill people that disagree with you. Why does ISIS kill people that disagree with them? Because they're in a cult. Why did people kill themselves in fucking, what was that town? Johannesburg or something? Why did they commit suicide? Because they were in a cult. You are in a cult.
I'm not in a cult. I just like to see myself
You are
as dedicated.
absolutely in a
Dedicated,
cult. You
dude.
are absolutely. You're killing
What?
people that
Are you
disagree with
dedicated to your principles?
Not to the point of where I'd
Not to
murder
kill
somebody
people.
for not agreeing with me. I'm not going to be like, oh, you don't fucking
So
agree
then
with me,
you're
you
a
son of a bitch.
pacifist.
Like,
Listen,
no,
Pat, listen.
Then you're a pacifist.
No, you can use self-defense.
I'm not a
but you can't
pacifist.
kill
How
people
the hell am I
disagree
a
with you.
pacifist? If you tried
Pat.
to kill me, I would kill
Pat.
you. If you
Okay,
tried to
then
kill me,
and we're kind of
But if you-
defending ourselves because you're trying to overthrow a revolutionary
No,
state.
you're
We're going
I'm
to
defending
saying I
defend
would
it.
idea.
peacefully try to overthrow the government. You're saying,
defending your
well,
idea.
if you try to peacefully overthrow the government,
Pat.
we will kill you. I'm saying I will defend myself if I have to defend myself. But if you come out with a sign, first of all, you're gonna be the only person out there like communism. But if you come out with a fucking sign, I'm not gonna walk out of my government and just shoot you in the face or throw you in a gulag.
Pat, there's two possibilities.
My name's
here.
Holden.
Either you are a complete psychopath that needs serious mental help, which I don't think you are. I give you the benefit of the doubt there. Or you are absolutely indoctrinated into the cult of communism. And I'm thinking it's the latter. And I think you really need to maybe step away from social media. Because it's getting to the point where you're actually thinking of harming people. You have to
No,
actually
only
harm
if they.
yourself. You're trying to disguise what it really is. I'm
Okay,
doing
if you're
everything in
not
my
willing
power
to
right
use
now to
violence
defend
for
you.
your principles, then you're a pacifist.
No, that's not
I'm not
true
going to
at
kill
all.
people who disagree
How is
with
that
me.
true in any
Listen.
way, shape, or form? How is it? How do you
every
go from
religion
like
go and kill people?
you have to kill
Should every
everybody that
religion go and
disagrees
kill
with
people?
you to, I'm sorry, I don't want to kill this person. All they're doing is holding a sign. Right? But see, this
You're
is
a
normal of the
psychopath.
left. This is typical of the left. I mean, look at fucking Antifa. Like there's a speech. A gay dude with blonde hair named Milo tries to speak, and then fucking you have to throw bricks at horses and bash police officers.
Pat,
Like,
you are absolutely. I really like for your own personal help. Me trying to
dude, he's not gonna
legitimately
kill
help you.
anybody. Are you kidding me?
Well, I hope he actually wouldn't.
He's not going to kill anybody. He's just he's no.
You're there in.
And this just pushes even further how communism
You muted
is
yourself.
not a realistic system. If you have to murder everybody that disagrees with you, how will we ever have a communist system? It's already utopian enough without the murdering of innocent people protesting it. Like now that you add
I'm
that
honestly
in,
just. I'm dumbfounded. You're muted, by the way.
So,
I
yeah,
forgot what you
because
were
I had to
before.
go. What were you saying?
You're absolutely fucking insane.
I'm not. By the way, I just want to make it clear. I'm not advocating for him to go kill somebody. I'm just saying. Patrick does not seem like the type of person that would honestly kill somebody. I don't think he'd do that.
That's why I don't think he's a psychopath. I think he's flirting with a cult of communism, and they cling to tightly held beliefs like worker exploitation theory, which we've already refuted very heavily. Labor theory of value, we already heavily refuted. Income inequality not being related to IQ, heavily refuted. All these things we heavily refuted, they still cling to despite complete consensus on. And then he's willing to kill people that speak the truth. I mean,
well, that's what the
you
result.
might not
That's,
actually.
if you get destroyed in a debate, I mean, at some point you have to like resort to that, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can either say maybe my ideas aren't the best.
But I'm saying if you're trying to stop us, then of course we're going to have to do something.
But what?
Well,
okay,
there's a difference.
I'm sure you like the American Revolution.
why can't you
They
just have a
listen.
fair election? Why can't you do that? Is it because you guys lose in a fair election?
No, you got to no because
whoa, Pat. The American Revolution, we had a kid shot for throwing a snowball that hit a redcoat. People were mad, and then they revolted. I am saying communism's a bad idea, so I'm going to post on my social media, which has much more followers than you, so I'm thankfully covering anything you post. It's a bad idea. I'm going to debate people like you on Instagram or YouTube to show them live their debates or their ideas simply do not hold water. That's why I like debating communists, because I want to show people their ideas simply do not hold water. Your ideas do not hold water. This debate, they didn't hold water the last 4 debates, so it's helping my case. I am, by every definition, a counter-revolutionary. I'm doing everything in my power to stop you from getting power. I did everything in my power to stop someone like Bernie Sanders from getting to power because I thought he was an idiot. I'm not saying he's a communist, but he is an idiot, so I did everything in my power. I'm a counter-revolutionary by every way you would define it. There's no way. Are you just going to give me an exemption?
We should try to get another PhD on as a communist. I feel like that's like the level we're at.
We need something better. Because this is absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, I am a counter-revolutionary. I'm doing everything I can to stop you. I'm not physically harming you. I'm doing everything in my power to stop you. And you're willing to kill me for that. You're willing to silence me.
What I'm saying is a revolutionary state is going to have to defend its interests from those who would bring back the old order.
You don't kill people. That's like saying I got to.
If they're going to try to overthrow,
if
they're going to try to violently stop the revolution, then yeah, you kind of have to do that, or at least send them to prison.
Don't you love how he changed it out of
comedy? When you put comedy on a ballot, that's not violent. What I'm doing is not violent.
We're not talking about North Korea.
Soviet Union.
You just said it was North Korea earlier.
If I did, I was wrong. It's Soviet Union. I have it right here.
Okay,
wait, this guy wants to join Yiddish leftist.
Let me find the thing real quick. How long have we been debating?
A while. Not long enough. I mean...
Ivan Bula was seeking the appearance of democracy. The Soviet Union held elections, but only one Communist Party candidate appeared on the ballot for each office. Fear of punishment ensured that nearly all Soviet citizens voted by taking their ballot and placing it into a ballot box. In 1949, Alvin Borlin, a beekeeper, protested this absurd ritual by writing the word comedy on his secret ballot. Soviet authorities linked the ballot to him and sentenced him to 8 years in a labor camp for his crime. He was a beekeeper named Ivan
True, not all of
B-U-R-Y-L-O-V.
Many of the candidates were not members of the Communist Party, and in fact, many
But
of
they
the
did
elected
exactly
members
what the
were
Communist Party
independents.
Listen, they did
According to-
exactly what the
Okay, hold
Communist
on. Let
Party
me get
said,
something
though.
to have about elections
we
in
have-
Cuba, which is also a socialist.
Like we literally have examples of them rigging elections.
We need
And
to
then
have someone
shaking
on
hands with-
here that's actually legit. I feel like this is getting us nowhere.
I'm honestly still dumbfounded that he's for killing me.
Only if you're going to kill us.
Dude, you just said earlier
I'm
that if you're
killing
just
your
trying to
movement.
overthrow, you never said anything about violence.
You keep trying to change it, and you talk about counter-revolutionaries, and all you're doing is essentially, my phone battery's at 10%. All you're doing is trying to dehumanize people that disagree with you, because you have to silence them.
Let's
Can I hear any, because I'm at 10%, any refutation to IQ equaling success, which is what we started to in the beginning, any refutation to the labor theory of value critiques that I presented, any refutation to the worker exploitation theory that I presented, or any critique to the absolutely authoritarian regime that we painted for you. Any refutation for that, or the economic calculus.
Yes. So do you want to talk about, I think you would like this, how about elections in Cuba?
He has 10%.
They've literally had a
vote.
dictator.
What?
It's literally the family rules.
Yeah, you're gonna tell me that there was like honestly competition against the Castros.
Okay, do you want me to
like,
go ahead and
Kim
read?
Jong-un receives? Do you believe Kim Jong-un received 99% of the votes?
Do you want me to read what I was going to read about elections in
Answer
Cuba?
my question first. Answer my question first.
Well, no, he's not directly elected. He's elected by the Supreme People's Assembly.
Does he get 99% of the popular vote, though?
He doesn't. He's
Answer my
not
question.
popularly elected. He's elected by the Supreme People's Assembly.
But people vote for him. Does he get
No.
99% of the vote?
The
Yes or no?
delegate. No, the people. He's elected by an electoral college.
Are you not going?
So he can't. You
That
can't.
receives 99% of the vote. Is that true or not? Do you actually believe that?
In terms of people accepting that one can on the ballot, yes, but not all. But it's debatable.
You
if there's-
keep, but you keep changing it to where is he actually that loved? The reality is, no society has politicians that well loved. It never happened.
All right, I'm ending
Like, you
this.
never
I'm
had-
ending this debate. This is getting nowhere. We'll get some real.
No, I was going to talk
Give a
about
close,
elections.
do you want to give him a
in
closing
Cuba.
statement?
Yeah, go ahead. Make
Give
your
us
closing
like
statement.
a 30-second closing
Yes,
statement.
I will
and then
make
we'll
a
give closing
closing.
statement.
I will make a closing statement.
30 seconds because I'm about to die. Not because of you, but because of my phone.
I had a lot to read for my closing statement. Come on.
Just give it a brief.
You can't just go on your this is another rant real quick. You damn communists will do so long to fucking what's it called? Rand Paul does a lot. Filibuster. Yeah, you filibuster so damn much. No one cares about the damn history. Please get to the point where you're clearly flawed.
No,
It's
I'm going to
just
read the whole
beating
thing.
around the bush.
Okay.
No, you're not. We're going to
So-
meet you after 30 seconds. I'm counting now.
All right. One of the first issues related to capitalism I should cover is the economic
Why
freedom.
didn't you say this
Capitalists
at the beginning when I
often-
asked you what the problem? Oh my god!
Because that was my introduction, and
Dude,
I didn't.
I don't give a fuck what it was. You have the answer to the question.
And you
were-
didn't say give me an introduction, so I didn't know
You
what
never
to do.
needed to go over the
The
fucking
best-
history, which sidetracked the whole thing. We never needed to talk about brains. We never needed to talk about evolution.
part.
All right, I'm
That
going
was
ahead
literally
anyway. So one of the
That's
first
the first
issues
sentence.
related to capitalism I should cover is the economic freedom index. Capitalists often use it to determine whether or not a country can be considered a practitioner of real capitalism.
This
So
could have
do
been
you
such a
believe?
good debate if you just said this an hour and a half ago.
Well, then let me say
That's the
it
first
now.
fucking-
Well, it's too fucking late. He's got like 2%.
Okay,
I'm
well,
timing
gonna-
you,
then
come
keep
on.
going.
You got
Of
my
course, you're
So,
saying it now that he
so-
can't refute it.
So, do you believe less government equals more capitalism? Freedom index.
Less
doesn't.
government
For
equals more
example,
freedom.
On the economic freedom index doesn't actually.
Okay, that's
for
30
example,
seconds
on
to
the
you.
government spending directly about.
Ask questions.
I will put my phone on the charger if you want to ask legitimate
Dude, put your
questions,
phone.
because
You know
No,
what?
I'm gonna
Fuck
read
it.
what I
No,
have
hold on.
here.
Wait a minute. Let's end this. Let's go live again. Get a fresh debate. You present that at the beginning of it, and that'll be our debate. Deal?
I'm
and
down.
we won't talk
I
over
need
each other.
something more entertaining. I need something more entertaining than this.
Okay. We won't.
do it.
No talking over each other. We'll end this. We'll go live again.
Fine.
Read that statement.
two,
The opening
you
statement.
can
We'll
lose
debate.
another
Okay.
debate.
We'll go live again. Part 2. I'm deleting this. This is fucking bullshit. We're gonna go live again.
No, leave it. No, that's funny. Please leave it. I wanna
Okay.
watch it. That's funny.
Hold out, guys.
Thank you.
Come to the next stream. It'll be up soon. Literally, give us like 5 minutes.